this is the 5-speed manual. Now let's see if this car is any good. One thing I'm going to pick up on straight away is if you are of the bigger persuasion body wise, you may have a problem with the pedals because they're very, very close together. I'm only a size 10 and that's the UK measure, and my feet are struggling to get onto the clutch and brake pedal without causing any difficulty. Now, rear view vision, this is a convertible. You're not going to see anything out the back, even with the roof up, or roof down rather. Wing mirrors, they're big enough but they're too far back. You've got to tilt your head to look in them. The whole idea of wing mirrors is to have a quick glance. You can't do that. Center console, it's quite stylish. I think most of the things could be operated without taking your eyes off the road. It does have the sat nav, and it does have the mini center dials here, but they don't have the quality you would expect, so these are obviously not going to last anywhere near the same as the last one. 0-60 test. Well, front wheel drive. And 60. Okay, it's quite a responsive little car. It nips along quite nicely. It's front wheel drive. I wonder why on earth these cars weren't made 4-wheel drive, because basically they would not have the issues I just had then. It's not only spinning on a quick start, you go around the corners and the car's front wheels are sliding all over the place. Huge amount of understeer. That would have been completely eliminated with a 4-wheel drive version Mini. Wouldn't be an issue as well, because at the end of the day the prop shafts would be so small. I don't really see how that would mess around with manufacturing costs. Little speedos here, rev counter's okay. The speedo's too small, it's too congested, it's not clear enough to read the speed. Steering's very heavy for a small car. I don't think there's any power steering at all. It is obviously responsive, being a short wheelbase car. Tiny little bit of play there before the wheels move. Give the car a wiggle. Well, it's pretty jittery, but I think it's fair to say it's quite steady as well. I think you could certainly chuck this thing into the corners if you wanted to, just not in the wet. Very noisy car, a lot of noise coming through the roof, a lot of noise coming through the floor pan too. Doesn't really seem to want to go anywhere, this car, but to be fair, it's a fun car. I think it's more of a ladies' car. It's ideal for nipping around towns, quick starts, stops, motorway. Well, you're going to need a 6th gear for that, probably a little bit of a bigger engine. It's a stylish car, it's quite good fun to drive, but really it is a go-kart, and it doesn't have the build quality that you would expect from what is basically a British icon. It does feel, I wouldn't say it feels cheap and tacky, but it does feel like a few corners have been cut. The only thing that really remains with this car right now is to test it on the corners. I'm glad it's wet, because we're going to see what its understeer is like, and also the brakes. So I'm coming up to a roundabout now, and hopefully the road won't be busy enough. Won't be too busy, so I'll be able to get a rough idea what it's like on the corners. Went over a manhole then, and I nearly lost my front teeth. It was like driving over cobbles. So the suspension is quite hard for a small car, and it wouldn't hurt to have had a bit more play there. Okay, round the roundabout. Well, it's difficult to stay in my seat, but it does like the corners, I have to say. It holds the road well. Car doesn't lean over at all. It's very firm, very upright. It squats around the corner. Let's see if we can get some understeer pulling out. Yeah, no understeer. And I tell you what, there wasn't any torque steer there too, which is quite surprising. I thought this car would be very, very heavy on the steering when it comes to accelerating out corners, and a lot of torque steer. No torque steer at all. And I think the reason for that is I don't think there's any power steering. As I say, the steering is pretty heavy. Obviously not when you're driving along, but I can imagine parking this up for a smaller lady would be quite difficult physically. I'm I'm going to see what the brakes are like now. I'm not going to do an emergency stop. I'm just going to brake very firmly. So 3, 2, 1. Oh, I might have to try them again, I think. I'm not too sure. We've got discs all around on this car. I wouldn't say they're bad brakes at all, but to be fair, it doesn't really feel like the car's stopping that well. I would have thought, you know, a small car, a light car, this thing would stop on a 2p piece, but it doesn't seem that way.